What if the biggest secret in All American wasn't just about a romance, but about trust, trauma, and the choices that could destroy every relationship before the series finale? After weeks of mystery, Episode 4, No More Hiding, finally begins answering the questions fans have been asking since the premiere. But instead of solving one mystery, it opens the door to several new ones. The shocking truth about Amina and KJ changes the way we see both characters. Khalil makes a decision that could have consequences for everyone. Layla reaches a major emotional crossroads, and by the end of the episode, it becomes clear that the final season has officially entered its most dangerous chapter yet. If you've been following All American since Spencer James first stepped onto the football field, you've probably noticed that the show has always been about much more than sports. Football may bring these characters together, but it's their friendships, family bonds, personal struggles, and impossible choices that keep viewers emotionally invested. Now, after 8 seasons, every storyline carries extra meaning because we're watching the final chapter of these characters' journeys. Episode 4 doesn't rely on huge action sequences or dramatic football games. Instead, it focuses on something even more powerful: truth. And as this episode reminds us, the truth has a way of changing everything. From the very first episode of Season 8, something felt different about Amina. She returned home carrying emotional weight that nobody else seemed to understand. She avoided certain conversations, she kept looking over her shoulder, and whenever someone asked about what happened at boarding school, she changed the subject. The only person who seemed to know the full story was KJ. That immediately created one of the season's biggest mysteries. Why was KJ protecting Amina? Why were they both so determined to keep the past buried? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what happened during those missing months? Episode 4 doesn't answer everything immediately. Instead, it slowly peels back the layers, allowing the audience to discover the truth alongside the characters. That slower pacing makes every revelation feel earned rather than rushed. One of the smartest things the writers do in this episode is remind us that Amina isn't simply a supporting character caught in someone else's love story. This episode gives her agency. She's intelligent, she's outspoken, and she's willing to stand up for what she believes, even when doing so comes with personal consequences. Without revealing every detail at once, the episode suggests that events at boarding school changed her outlook completely. Rather than returning home as the same person who left, she comes back carrying experiences that have made her more cautious, but also stronger. That's why her relationship with KJ feels different from a typical television romance. Their connection isn't built only on attraction, it's built on trust, and sometimes trust can be even more powerful than love. Season 8 has quietly transformed KJ into one of the show's most interesting characters. At first glance, he's focused entirely on football and trying to live up to everyone's expectations. But Episode 4 reveals another side of him. Behind the confident athlete is someone carrying pressure from every direction. His family life isn't as stable as he'd like. His future depends on performing under constant scrutiny. And now he's carrying someone else's secret as well. That's not an easy burden for anyone. One of the reasons KJ and Amina connect so naturally is because neither of them feels fully understood by the people around them. They don't need to explain every emotion. Sometimes silence says enough. On the surface, Episode 4 looks like it's about uncovering a secret, but underneath, it's asking a much bigger question. Who do we trust when life falls apart? Every major character answers that question differently. Amina chooses KJ. Khalil looks for answers elsewhere. Layla turns toward family. Coop continues believing she can protect everyone. Each choice reveals something about who these characters have become after years of growth. And those choices begin pulling the entire friend group in different directions. At first, the cracks seem small, but before long, those cracks become impossible to ignore. One thing All American has always done well is making quiet moments feel just as important as dramatic ones. Episode 4 is filled with conversations that may seem ordinary at first, but each one moves another piece into place. Each decision carries consequences. Each secret creates another misunderstanding, and each misunderstanding pushes the characters one step closer to a conflict that feels almost inevitable. The audience can sense it long before the characters do. Something is coming. The only question is, who will get hurt first? Just when it seems like everyone can keep pretending everything is normal, one person begins connecting the dots, and that single moment starts a chain reaction nobody can stop. At this point, the episode shifts from mystery to consequences. The biggest change isn't simply that Amina and KJ share a secret, it's how that secret affects everyone around them. Their growing trust becomes impossible for others to ignore, and every conversation suddenly carries a second meaning. Meanwhile, Khalil starts questioning everything he's seeing. Believing he's doing the right thing, he shares his concerns, unaware that his actions may create even more conflict than the secret itself. Another interesting layer is Tori's perspective. She's forced to wonder whether she's seeing the full picture or only part of the truth. That uncertainty creates emotional tension that drives the rest of the episode. The writers cleverly remind us that in All American, the biggest battles rarely happen on the football field. They happen between people who care about each other. But what happens next raises the stakes even higher. This is where the episode truly finds its emotional core. Rather than focusing only on shocking reveals, the story explores why these characters made the choices they did. Trust, loyalty, and fear all collide, making every relationship feel more fragile than before. Layla's storyline also deserves attention. Her search for guidance reflects one of the season's biggest themes, trying to build a better future without repeating the mistakes of the past. By now, it becomes clear that the episode isn't simply exposing secrets, it's testing every bond the characters have built over the years. And once trust begins to crack, putting it back together becomes much harder. By the end of episode 4, the biggest takeaway isn't the secret itself, it's the ripple effect it creates. Every major character walks away changed in some way. Some relationships grow stronger, while others become more uncertain. The emotional balance that existed at the start of the season has clearly shifted. This episode also serves as the bridge into the second half of the final season, setting up bigger conflicts, tougher choices, and emotional payoffs that longtime fans have been waiting to see. If the writers continue building on these storylines, the final episodes could become some of the most emotional in All American's history. So what do you think? Did episode 4 completely change your view of Amina and KJ? Which relationship do you think is most at risk moving forward?